Welcome to Hermetic Temple Radio.
Bum, 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 bum. Welcome to Showbiz, baby. Welcome to Showbiz, love. Welcome to Showbiz, baby. Gee, you're gonna have, girl, you're gonna have, you'll have lots of fun.
Got our daily tribute there to the old show, The Gong Show. That brought to us by the Hollywood Drunks. And today I am going to be talking on the topic of mindful consumerism and Agapeism. And what this is nothing original really. This is in many ways, it can be seen as a restatement of the 5 mindfulness teachings as presented by Thich Nhat Hanh quite a few years ago. And I think he since has done an update of those mindfulness teachings since they were originally written. But what we need to focus on, in my opinion, is to be mindful of the world around us and be aware of how we interact with the world around us. Most times, people will assume that they are a rock, that they are an island. Well, more an island than a rock these days, but most people think that they are alone. And what they do affects only them. And what they fail to realize is that in our world, in our society, in our day-to-day lives, there is a ripple effect. What we do, the actions that we take, the attitudes that we wake up with in the morning and drag out of bed with us and allow to tag along with us in our day-to-day life. All these things have a ripple effect. They follow us. They affect more than just us. They affect other people, sometimes for the better and sometimes for the worse. And when we go into our day-to-day lives and do our humdrum things that we do in life, like, going into work, doing a little bit of shopping, even going out for a hamburger and fries, we need to be mindful and aware and alert as to the effect that we are having on other people, and to be aware of what we consent to in our day-to-day life just by going along with it, just by going with the flow. I believe it was Edmund Burke that made the statement, "All that is necessary for evil to succeed is for good people to do nothing." And that's the way most people are in our day-to-day life. We just go with the flow. We don't see the evil in the world, and when we do see it, we think, okay, I'm just a small, insignificant person. I can't do anything to affect the outcome of national and international affairs. So good people just consciously do nothing. Sometimes because they're not aware of the evil going on around them, and other times it's because they are aware, but they're afraid, or they feel disempowered. They just feel like they cannot make a difference. And the message that I'm presenting here today is by using certain tools, certain skills that anybody can develop, we can make a difference through the practice of mindful living, mindful consumerism, and what I'm going to call Agapeism or Metaism. living a life of wide awake and aware love. Love in action, mindfulness in action. But in order to live this way, and in order for this philosophy to work, we have to be wide awake. So this being an early morning hour, in order to get us wide and awake, I'm going to play a song by Hunter and the Dirty Jacks, Rock and Roll Soul, and then I'm going to warm up my cup of coffee and I'll be right back with you.
Young man, take a look at me now. I'm down to play today. You can string me up and bring the crowd. That's all I need to say. Voice of an angel, entertainment for a king. No rhythm to speak. I wish to God you could sing. Finding Helen of Troy in a old style. Could start a religion with a launch coat smile. And I was born with a rock and roll soul. Here's what I need. Make me whole. Yeah, I was born with a rock and roll soul. Here's what I need. Make me whole. Yeah. Check out. Yeah, bow. Yeah, bow. Young man, need to find my way to bring this to the top. I got locks and the golden chops. There's no way this won't pop. Young man, I'm ready to roll. I'm gonna storm this stage tonight. Just play this song. It won't take long to see our name and dancing. I was born with a rock and roll soul. Here's what I need. Make me whole. I was born with a rock and roll soul. Here's what I need. Make me whole. Let's go. Moving bow. Yeah, yeah. Baby, down. Bow, bow. I was born with a rock and roll soul. Here's all I need to make me whole. Ha, 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 I was born with a rock and roll soul. Here's all I need to make me whole. Yeah, I was born with a rock and roll soul. Here's all I need to make me whole. I was born with a rock and roll soul. Here's all I need to make me whole. I said I was born with a rock and roll soul. Here's all I need to make me whole.
You know, that's one thing that this song brings to mind, Rock and Roll Soul, is that in order to live a positive life, you know, we need to start out the day by raising some good positive energy. And most people, I mean, they get out of bed, they get dragging out of bed, they get a cup of coffee, and that's about it. And then go down and they eat out of the drive-through window at one of the fast food chains and throw some grease and cheese in their stomachs. And if they turn on the radio and listen to some music, you know, who knows? Sometimes it may be uplifting music. Other times it may be some rather dark and violent music. But most people don't really consciously try to raise positive energy. And that's a part of mindful living and a part of what I'm going to call mindful consumerism as well, is just recognizing that we can make a positive contribution to the world. We're not just like little robots going through life and obeying orders and doing what we're told and just going with the hive mentality or the group mentality that so many of us live with, totally unaware. And in order to become aware that you are powerful, that you have the ability to make a difference in the world, you have to start out each day raising a little bit of positive energy. For some folks, that can be done through meditation. Other folks, putting on some good music and something positive, something that really brings forth a positive message into your life. You can think of it as a theme song that you want to stick with you for the rest of the day. And you don't have to walk down the street humming it to yourself. You can if you want to, but just focus on raising some positive energy and carry that with you through your day. Because the grand illusion I think that many of us live with is that we are weak, we are powerless. We believe that we are not powerful and that, we can't rock the boat or we shouldn't rock the boat. And people think that they just cannot make a difference. And the message that I want to present here today is that anyone, at any moment, once they realize their inner power, they can live in such a way that change will be brought about. And one method that I'm going to speak on here is mindful consumerism. Most people, when they go shopping, and I am extremely guilty of this, is they do their shopping so mindlessly, so unconsciously, so unaware. I'm a man, and the way I go shopping is the way a hunter-gatherer goes out into the woods and tries to bag a rabbit. I'm focused on getting that rabbit, or I'm focused on getting my nuts and berries, or twigs, or whatever it is that the rest of the tribe needs. And I go in there and I want to bag that rabbit and get those nuts and berries and get back to the family compound just as soon as possible. And that's the way I do my shopping, or used to do my shopping. And I would just go in and I have 5 items on my shopping list. Usually rabbit's not on that list. But I got like 5 items on my list, and I go into the store, running through the store, and just take the shopping cart, throw those 5 items in, and then rush to the checkout and put my purchases on the belt and shell out my cash and make it back to the car. And if I can do all that in 20 minutes, I figure I've won the competition. And that's the way I used to do shopping. And fortunately for me, I got married about 20 years ago. Has it been 20 years? Well, maybe only 17. It seems longer, though. But, I got married roughly about 20 years ago. And I went shopping with my wife. On numerous occasions. And the way that she does her shopping, of course, is completely different from the way I do my shopping. She's not the hunter-gatherer going in there to, bag a can of pork and beans or rice or whatever. She goes in there and she actually looks around. She observes her surroundings. She becomes aware of the other people around her. She becomes aware of the feelings and the attitudes of the employees of that store. She will strike up a conversation with a complete and total stranger just because something tells her that that person needs a friendly smile or a friendly hello or just a short 5-minute chit-chat. And what I've learned over the last 20 years or so of life with Heidi is that she is a gifted empath. And I think to a certain extent she was born with some of this empathic ability. And also to a certain extent this is something that she has consciously focused on and developed within her life. And when we go shopping together, and at first when I first noticed this, I thought she was being a little weird, or maybe just a little bit crazy. But we would go into it happened once with a Chinese restaurant that we used to enjoy. I mean, I used to think it was the best Chinese restaurant within a 60-mile radius of our home. But one day we went into that Chinese restaurant and the waitresses were all speaking to one another in Chinese, so there's no way that my wife could understand that language. She's fluent in English and Spanish, but Chinese so far isn't one of her linguistic gifts. But she was listening to what the waitresses were, how they were talking, and she was connecting with them on an emotional level. And she looked at me as we were eating, and she said, "I've lost my appetite." And I couldn't understand why. And she just kept saying, "Something's not right here. There's a lot of tension here. The waitresses are not happy. Something is going on." She didn't know exactly what it was. But yeah, something was going on, and I began to pay attention. And I could hear somebody that sounded like may have been the manager of the restaurant. And yeah, he wasn't really yelling at the waitresses, but he was raising his voice and sounding rather stern. And I could not tell what was being said or what was going on, but yeah, I began to pick up on it too. And we quit going to that Chinese restaurant just based on that experience. I believe we did go back again just to give them the benefit of the doubt, figuring that maybe the boss was having a bad day and was letting it out on the employees. But the next time we went back, it wasn't any better. And it was really strange because food that used to taste good in that restaurant suddenly became tasteless, and we quit going there. And evidently we weren't the only people that felt that way, because within a few months that restaurant closed down. And it used to be, what I thought anyway, before I let my feelings out of the box, so to speak, and do a little bit of exploration, I used to think that was one of the finest restaurants in the area. But that negative attitude that expressed itself so well, even in Chinese, to a non-Chinese speaking crowd, just told us that these people are not happy, these workers are not happy, and we shouldn't be contributing to an establishment that in whatever way abuses its workers. And that was my first experience of my wife's empathy. And really, this was before I would call it mindful consumerism. But yeah, my first conscious experience of practicing mindful consumerism. When we go out to shop or go out to dinner, we need to pay attention to what is going on. We need to pay attention to what kind of a system that we are supporting with our dollars. When we buy something, when we write a check or give out our credit card information, we need to know, is this an organization that I should support? Is this an organization that I want to support? When's the last time you asked yourself that question when you went out shopping someplace? Normally, we do our shopping at a certain place because, everybody else is doing it. The rest of the people, 80%, 90% of the town shops there. It's the place to be. So we just kind of go with the flow and go right along with it. And we don't ask ourselves the tough questions. What is the business philosophy of this business? How does this establishment treat its employees? Does this establishment treat its employees as fellow associates, people of value? Or do they just view the employees as cogs in the wheel, little annoying slaves that we have to pay minimum wage or else the government's going to be breathing down our neck and force us to do the right thing? Is the attitude of that establishment something that is positive? Are they wanting to give back to the community? Are they wanting to actually pay their employees an honest day's wage for an honest day's work? Is this a job that an employee can work and actually make a livable wage doing? Or is this a place that if you work there too long, you may end up penniless and homeless in the street? And there are people like that. I think if you open your eyes and you go into a store and start talking to some of the employees, you might well be shocked to find that some of those people that serve you in that store may not have a home. They may be living in their car and maybe doing their laundry at the laundromat and just coming into work because they need the money, but the pay that they're getting is not enough to be able to rent them an apartment or a home. And a lot of times, we live with the illusion that if you work hard in the United States, and if you apply yourself, and if you're willing to just be dependable, that and if you get a good job with a good company or a good corporation, that you're going to succeed. But lately, in the last few years, organizations have arisen which do not believe in paying their employees what they're worth. They may even consider their employees to be worth less for the most part. I've heard managers and assistant managers just give employees that were trying to do their best the worst tongue lashing in English, so I knew what was being said. One store I used to work in, it was called, so-and-so just got the dumbass speech. And this little Hitler that just fresh out of school with his master's of business degree, would just be laying it on the line and saying, you know what? You're an idiot, and I don't have to listen to you. And that was just that toxic attitude that was being conveyed. And that store, after this assistant manager got hired, transformed. Employees that used to have a positive attitude about their work, positive attitude about the company, would just come in and just dread having to punch that time clock. Some of them would rather be punching the assistant manager instead. and just be dreading the time when they would screw up, according to this manager, and be given the dumbass speech. It happens. And there are corporations, companies. There are some good ones still. I want to make that clear. This isn't a diatribe against corporate America. But this is a talk about some of the abuses that we see in corporate America. And there are some bosses that are told to cut pennies anywhere they can. And if they have to cut back on wages or deny raises to good employees, they will. There are some corporations that are just notorious for not paying workers the overtime that they have earned. And again, this one shop I used to work in, we'd be asked by the boss, would you stay, work a couple hours overtime? And yeah, we're really in a bind right now. We had 5 people that didn't show up, so could you work a few hours of overtime to help us catch up? And I would say, yeah, sure. Yeah, I could use the overtime. And go ahead and work a few hours over, and then come back into work the next day and be told, well, because you worked that overtime, we need you to take a 2-hour lunch to kind of make up, because this highly profitable corporation cannot afford to pay its workers the wages that they've earned. They didn't put it that way. They have said, we need to keep the company profitable, so we need you to take a 2-hour lunch. Sometimes it was a 3-hour lunch, so the company doesn't have to pay you the overtime that you worked on Monday night. And it took me it took me longer than it should have to wake up to what was going on. That this was a company that was not taking care of its workers. It was not rewarding loyalty. Instead, it was just giving in to corporate greed. This was not a company that was on the verge of bankruptcy in any way. This was a company that was paying the CEO $20 million a year, and members of a certain family were billionaires, still are billionaires to this day. Notice I'm not naming any names, but if you've worked for this company, you know exactly who I'm talking about and what I'm talking about. And if we go through life mindlessly, unconsciously, shopping at stores like this, then we reward that kind of evil, shall we call it? That kind of greed, that kind of corruption that says employees are just cogs in the wheels, people to be used so we can make the manager and the district manager and the CEO and certain members of a very prominent American family richer than hell. Certainly sometimes richer than they deserve. And we support that agenda with our pocketbooks. And what I'm advocating is that we open our eyes, we become aware of what we are supporting. And then we ask ourselves the question, do I really want to support this? And if you do, go for it. I'm not here to tell you what to do. If you feel like supporting a system, then support it. But know what you are supporting. Know the level of corruption, indeed, if there is any, that you are condoning to. And just be aware of it. And then if you decide you don't want to support it, then have the courage to just, say no. Somebody says, hey, you want to go shopping at Sam's Grocery or Sam's Warehouse here? A person can just say no, because I don't like the way they treat their employees. And I'm not going to support a system like that. And make a statement. Doesn't have to be a bold statement, just a simple no, and then a simple explanation as to why not, and then just give the other person time to think it over. And maybe your example will help to lead other people to live a life of mindfulness too. I'm going to take a break, play a song by Burnshee Thornside called Borderline, and we'll be right back after this. When I first started talking about what I would later call mindful consumerism, I was really surprised at the amount of, well, not really the amount of support, the lack of support that it would really receive from the very people that this philosophy was being crafted to help. And part of this, the reason for this, is that most people are just so mentally conditioned that they just cannot imagine doing things differently. And that's the way a lot of us are. We are so carefully conditioned by our environment, by the mass media, by our bosses, by our family members, by our friends, that things are the way they are, and that's just the way it is. There used to be a song, there still is a song, that's just the way it is. You know, nothing will ever change. And then it ends with, don't you believe it? But that's the common mantra, I think, for 80% of the people that we encounter. That's just the way it is, and I can't do anything to stop it. And the truth of the matter is that when we open our eyes, we can understand that we do have a voice, we do have a power, and we can do something to change things. And most people just don't wake up to this. And the example that I was using here is I was talking online about a certain organization, let's just call it Wally World, and talking about how they treated their employees, and I was basing this on my 3 years of first-hand experience down there in the trenches, working hard, hoping conditions would change, not by consciously trying to make changes, but just going with the flow, just rolling with things. And I began to understand that as long as you roll with things, as long as you go with the flow, and just go along with this, that nothing is going to change, that you have to take some action to change things, to make constructive change. But change doesn't happen if you just go with the flow. Sometimes it does. I mean, yeah, I'm going to contradict myself there, but sometimes, unless we take a stand and try to consciously change something out of love, not out of hate, not out of anger, but out of love, unless we make a conscious decision to change, to bring about positive change through a positive spiritual energy like love, things will just continue on and on and on and on. World without end, amen. Go back to that saying by Edmund Burke. All that is necessary for evil to succeed is for good people to do nothing. And sometimes just waking up alone is not enough. We have to do something. And I was talking with this one lady in Florida about mindful consumerism and how I thought, if we all just join together in what I at that time was thinking of as a boycott. If we all join together and just refuse to buy our goodies from this one chain that was, popular throughout the United States, that we could force them to make change. We could compel them to make change. That we could make our voices heard and make things happen. And this one woman was saying, well, that's easy for you to say, but I have children. And I live from paycheck to paycheck. And I have to shop at the cheapest place I can. And, you don't know what it's like to buy school supplies and to try to stretch that dollar as far as you can. And actually, I do know a thing or two about that. I just don't like to brag. But yeah, we've stretched the dollar until it darn thing should have snapped at certain points in our life. But I could understand what she was saying, and she was saying that, this one store that you're talking about boycotting is the cheapest place that I can buy school supplies for my children. The cheapest place that I can buy food for my family. And I have no choice. I've got to do it. And that's one thing about mindful consumerism, is you realize to a certain extent you have to do what you have to do. But you can still think of creative ways to make your voice heard. One way is by going in, doing your shopping, just buying the things that you absolutely can't find anyplace else and can't afford to buy anyplace else. But then before you leave, talk to the manager, talk to the assistant manager, talk to a sales rep or whoever is managing the sales floor, and let them know that you're shopping there, but you're shopping there under protest. And tell them why. And that's one method of effecting change. When word starts to filter up from the bottom to the top, that not only are the employees unhappy, but many of the shoppers are unhappy, then maybe upper management will start to take some action to turn things around. It requires patience, but I have seen this work. And another issue I think that I should cover at this point is that when we practice mindful consumerism, it's not the same as a boycott. That's the way I saw it originally, was we're boycotting Wally World. But no, this is not something, it's not an economic boycott. It should be seen as a practice of mindfulness, as a spiritual practice, not strictly an economic practice. It is a spiritual practice that will have economic ramifications. Yes, it will function. It can function as a boycott. But when we do it out of spiritual principles, it multiplies the effect, I would say, at least tenfold. And this is not something that we do simply like, mindlessly boycotting something, like, I don't know. I don't want to make light of it because I believe in this, but when I was growing up, it was the in thing to be boycotting California table grapes. And for a while there, there's an old Woody Allen movie. Yeah, I was so committed I didn't eat grapes for a month. And that's the level of commitment that some people have. But sometimes an economic boycott comes across that way, that this is the in thing. This is something that we're doing because everybody else is doing it. And it becomes just the opposite of mindfulness. In mindfulness, we have to ask ourselves, what's happening here? What is this company doing? How does it treat its employees, the environment, the world around it? What is its business philosophy? And is this something that I can get behind? And when we refuse to shop someplace or choose to shop someplace out of mindful consumerism, it's not just an economic practice, it is a spiritual path. And it's a spiritual path that we follow out of love for ourselves and love for our fellow human beings. And it's a spiritual path that we awaken to gradually, one that we follow so that we can open our eyes more and more each day. And in my own practice of mindful consumerism, my eyes are still beginning to open. But in the beginning, I felt like that woman in Florida. That, okay, we're on a tight income. At one point in time, we're virtually on no income. And then we're on a tight income. And I thought, okay, I've got to shop at the cheapest place. And I got to buy, the really cheap stuff. And I forgot an old saying, you get what you pay for. And I would shop, just pick up the cheapest pens and other products that I could find. I'm going to use the example of ballpoint pens and shavers, those little disposable razors. I would buy those things because I thought that's the cheapest, most economical thing to buy. Okay, well, it turns out, after I experimented a little bit, that, yeah, they were pretty cheap. They were cheaply made. and but they weren't the most inexpensive things that I could be buying. I did an experiment once and went to another store. Let's just call it Dollar World. And I went and I bought some ballpoint pens. Got a big pack of ballpoint pens made in China for $1. And I thought, okay, I hate to do it, but we're on a tight income, so I've got to buy this. Took it home, used it, began using it. Found out that a lot of the pens didn't work. I had to coax them to work. And then after I coaxed them to work, they would stop working. And sometimes just writing out a paper or something, a darn pen would quit working right in mid-sentence. And I'd have to monkey with it and fool with it. And even when there was still ink in the ballpoint pen, it would eventually get to a point where the pen would cease to function because it was just poorly made. And I realized that, yes, sometimes you do get what you pay for. The pens were like 1/3 the price of other pens that I could have bought, but only 1/3 of them really worked well. And then only for a short period of time. So I did an experiment. I went back to Dollar World and picked up a pack of pens that were made in France. As I couldn't find any that was made in USA, so I thought, okay, let's give France a try. And they were 3 times the price of the other really cheaper pens, but I got them home and they worked. And they worked, and they kept on working, and they continued to work. And I actually got better value out of the more expensive product than I did out of the cheaply made product. And we had an episode with a bridge going out in our neighborhood, which made it really difficult to travel long distances to go to the Dollar World to buy their cheaply made things. But it was a lot closer with the bridge out to go to a mom and pop grocery store to buy things. And at first I thought, this is going to be good in a way because I like to support the small business. I like to support the local guys over the big corporations. And I like to spend my money at the mom and pop stores over the corporately run stores. But I was hesitant because I still believed that myth that woman in Florida was mentioning, and many other people have this myth firmly implanted in their minds as well. That myth being that if you want to save money, you have to shop with the corporate giants and pass by the little mom and pop stores. So I thought, yeah, in a way this is going to be nice, because it literally, with the bridge being out, it's going to force me to shop at the local mom and pop grocery store. But I began to have reservations because I kind of thought, well, I'm going to be spending a lot more money, and maybe I should just spend that extra money on gas to go to the corporate giant and buy their stuff. But what I began to notice, after kind of remembering my prices that I was paying at the Dollar World and seeing the prices that they were charging at the mom and pop operation, I was actually surprised to find out that many of the prices were actually lower at the mom and pop store than they were at the corporate giant store. And that made me think, what have I been doing these last several years? I've been blindly assuming that old Dollar World has the lowest price on everything because that's what they advertise. That's what they say on the window. And I found out that that's not necessarily true. That if you do a little bit of comparison, Sometimes the little mom and pop stores have the better deal. And not only is it the better deal, but you're supporting local merchants over the large corporations. And I like the idea of supporting the little guy, because that fits with my philosophy of liberation and independence and fairness, equality for all, solidarity with all. May sound a little silly, but that's the way I am. So don't believe all the brainwashing that you have been subjected to. That sometimes you find out that just because a place advertises low prices, you might actually be able to find the price cheaper someplace else, supporting people who actually need the support. And also bear in mind that sometimes low prices also means low wages for the working poor who need a break. And so by supporting the people that support the little guy, that support the common worker, you are doing a lot to help support a more stable America and building a better America. I'm going to take a break here and play a song. Let's see, have we done Set Me Free? I don't think we have. Well, if I have, I apologize. But this song by Sophia Marie, Set Me Free.
It was the coldest day of my history. The joy and my heart in black and misery. You've darkened my soul, I feel so cold. Sending me down into a grieving hole. Now
You've taken my soul.
No, I guess I hadn't played that song before. Sophie Marie was setting me free, and that's a feeling that a lot of people have, that just looking to somebody else for help, somebody else for support, somebody else for liberation. And that too is a part of mindfulness, is that we slowly become aware that we can become our own liberator just by opening up our eyes to the truth and allowing the truth to set us free. Now, so far in Mindful Consumerism, I've spoken of mindful consumerism from the point of view of the shopper. But it cuts both ways. It's not just a philosophy that can benefit the shopper and the worker and the employees, but mindfulness is something that also makes sense in the business world. And I think if we open our eyes and become mindful to how we're running businesses, sometimes running businesses into the ground, we can wake up to the fact that we've got everything back asswards. There was a talk I heard by a wide awake, beautiful businessman back in, this would have to be about the mid-1980s. But he challenged people of that day to consider the following truth: that when you go into a grocery store or a big discount store or any kind of business, the person that you are going to be dealing with 9 times out of 10, if not 10 times out of 10, the main person that you interact with, when you first walk into that store and you're greeted, and then you go in through the store and you ask for directions, hey, excuse me, where are the pork and beans? And then you throw your stuff in the shopping cart, on down to the person that you deal with at the checkout stand. These are oftentimes, if not all the times, the lowest paid people in that store. And not only are they the lowest paid people in that store, they are the people that have the most power to help the customer feel good about shopping at that store. They are some of the most powerful PR people that store has. And just consider that when you walk in to a grocery store, you're dealing with people, for the most part, who are making minimum wage. If you really have a problem and you need, some high power help, you may stand your ground and demand to talk to the assistant manager or the store manager. And instead of talking to somebody who's making minimum wage, you may be talking to somebody who's making like $50,000 a year, $100,000 a year, something in that ballpark. But you never deal with the high-powered people. The CEO of that corporation that's bringing down $20 million a year. In your lifetime, you're probably never going to meet that guy. No matter how many times you go shopping at Wally World or Dollar World or Sam's Warehouse, you're probably never, ever, ever going to cross paths with that dude. But the people that you will cross paths with every single time that you do shopping at any store will usually be the lowest paid grunt of that organization. The person working for minimum wage that runs the cash register and maybe goes on break, then a half hour later is called to clean out the toilet, and then 15 minutes after that is called to go back and make sandwiches in the deli. The regular jack of all trades that is constantly, in the public eye, dealing with the public on a minute-to-minute basis, the person that got the job because partially they needed the job, and then partially they said, I'm a real people person. I can deal with the public, so put me into that lion's den. And it's this person, this jack of all trades, that really has a lot of power to make you feel good about shopping at a store, or to make you have doubts as to whether or not you should be shopping in that organization. And again, 9 times out of 10, this person is the lowest paid person in that organization. And what this enlightened businessman was telling people back in the mid-1980s is that this is all screwed up. This is bad business. What you need to do is take your people who are dealing with the public on a minute-to-minute basis like that and treat them like associates. Treat them like business partners. Make sure they have a decent wage. Make sure that they're making enough that they can keep a roof over their head and have food on their table and have decent, clean clothes to wear, so that when you go asking this person for help, they're not smelling like a dung heap, especially if they've just finished cleaning the toilet. And he just called into question that entire upside-down business model where the main people who deal with the public on an hour-to-hour basis are paid minimum wage, and then the folks like the CEO who probably don't deal with the public ever are pulling down $20 million a year. And he said that is just back-ass words. It's upside down. And he was recommending at that time that it's better business practice, if you have to cut the CEO wage, take that money, put it down at the bottom, pay it to your workers, help them to feel good about the organization, give them a reason to be loyal to the company. Make sure their needs are taken care of in exchange for the time that they are trading to do that job. And make sure you have happy employees. And his message at that time is that a happy employee interacting with the public, with the customers, are going to make the customers happy. They're going to help the customers to be happier about shopping at that place, and things will pick up after that. And I think you can see this in other organizations as well, not just grocery stores and discount chains, but any organization that if you have people that you're interacting with who have a negative attitude about that organization, that negativity is going to spread. But if you put positive people in the right positions where they are going to have a positive impact on the people that do business with that organization or support that organization, whatever it is. It could be a grocery store, it could be a mega church. But if you put positive people in positions of power, they can spread that positive attitude like wildfire. But in business, we do not always see it that way. We think of the bottom line, which is always the almighty dollar, and not the human beings that you are dealing with. The human beings that have incredible power to turn public opinion to your favor or to turn public opinion against you. And again, mindful consumerism for business managers, business owners, CEOs. It's not very many CEOs that go to the board and say, hey, I want to cut my own wages, $1 million a year for me is plenty. Take the other 19 million and let's give that to the cashiers and see if things don't turn around for our business. Not very many CEOs do that. There's been a few stories I've heard of some remarkable CEOs that do that very thing, but they are rare and beautiful gems that we rarely hear about. So yeah, do the right thing, and only mindfulness, wide awake mindfulness, seeing the world minus the blinders that most of us wear without realizing it, that has the power to make change. Play another song here by Sophia Marie called Break Down the Walls, and then we're going to wrap this program up.
I'm trying to be strong when everything goes wrong. I feel this test is gonna break me. I'm standing on my own, but no, I'm not alone. With strength, I know I'm gonna make it. I know the way, but I'm scared all the same. This fear, I'm gonna have to shake it. I don't want to live my life in this way. I see the path, I just gotta take it. I'm gonna break down the walls tonight. I fight tonight. I see the crumbling fall tonight. I fight tonight. I keep the ground so low, lost everything I've known. With every step I feel so jaded. My past ain't gonna change, won't ever be the same. I'm surely gonna have to trade it. I know the way, but I'm scared all the same. This fear, I'm gonna have to shake it. I don't want to live my life in this way. I see the path, I just gotta take it. I'm gonna break down the walls tonight. I fight tonight. I see the crumbling fall tonight. I fight tonight. I don't think I can escape or throw it away. I know that I make mistakes. What more can I take? I know that time has a way to heal all that I face. This pain is not gonna break me. I'm gonna break down the walls tonight. I fight tonight. I see the crumbling fall tonight. I fight tonight. I'm gonna break down the walls. I'm trying to be strong when everything goes wrong. I feel this test is gonna break me. I'm standing on my own, but no, I'm not alone. With strength, I know I'm gonna make it. I've hit the ground so low, lost everything I've known. With every step, I feel so jaded. My past ain't gonna change, won't ever be the same. I'm surely gonna have to trade it. I'm trying to be strong when everything goes wrong. I feel this test is gonna break me. I'm standing on my own, but no, I'm not alone. With strength, I know I'm gonna make it.
Okay, time to wrap this up. Now, in the beginning, I said that mindful consumerism and Agapeism is one tool that we can use to effect change in the world around us. Now, the skeptical out there might be saying, okay, Frater, what evidence are you going to present to back that claim up? Well, let's go back to Wally World again. When I was working for them back, seems like so long ago now, and just complaining about conditions being so bad and just being misled by management and just being the victim, well, not really the victim, but at the time I felt like a victim, but just falling for the old carrot at the end of a stick trick, being promised, bigger and better things, and then never having those promises fulfilled, I began to feel like this is just, there's nothing you can do by trying to constructively engage with this corporation, so I just quit. And I got out of there because, I mean, if I had continued to work there, I probably would have gone bankrupt. That's how bad it was. Literally, at some points, it was costing me more to go into work than the wages I was making. I mean, things were just that difficult. But other people stuck with the company. And these are the real heroes of this story. Other people, even during a time of economic downturn, even during the time of the Great Recession, knew the basic principle that human beings deserve an honest day's wage for an honest day's work. And they stuck together. And even though this was and continues to be, I believe it continues to be, a non-union shop, these people organized their own union. And it's kind of like a union that's not called a union, but they stood together. They stood together in solidarity. They organized protests. They organized strikes. They ran the risk during a time when most people were not hiring. They ran the risk of standing on principle and possibly losing their jobs over taking a stand and doing the right thing. They did the Promethean ethic of standing up for the truth, even when it's far more likely that you'll be punished for it rather than rewarded for it. And these brave souls, they didn't turn tail and run. I felt I had to get out of there because I had better things waiting for me in my own hometown. I was traveling 120 miles a day to go working at Wally World. And so I thought, this is just insane too. So I had to make my choice, and I did. And for me, it was the right choice. But other folks that lived locally that just felt like they needed to take a stand and make change, they stuck with it. And they organized demonstrations. They organized strikes. They organized sick outs. And it took some time. And a lot of people were fired over these actions. But it took time. And finally, public opinion turned against this organization. And public opinion began to rest more squarely with the workers who were fighting for their rights, fighting peacefully, non-violently for their rights. And the upper management, I don't know if this came from the CEO or the board of directors, but upper management began to see the wisdom in doing the right thing. And they said, okay, what we're going to do, we hear you, and we're going to raise wages. And they began to raise wages a little bit the first year, and then a little bit more the second year, and they phased in what I think is a more fair wage system than what they had. Being on the outside looking in, I don't know for sure if it really is that good of a thing, but hey, it looked good in the press anyway. And this organization began to make some positive changes, and what I heard from other people that stayed on the inside is that, yeah, that helped. And it was a big help. And it made the difference. A lot of other people were thinking, Ralph, I'm going to follow you out that door. I'm not putting up with this monkey business anymore from this store. But they stayed with it, and as conditions began to change, they decided, for them, they made the right move. And so, change can come through a dedicated practice of mindful consumerism. But you have to be patient. You have to be willing to stick with it. What the struggle I'm talking about is something that's 10 years old now, and I only worked with the situation for about 3 years. I know of other people who spent a good part of their adult lives with this organization and were struggling for like 15 to 20 years to change things, to turn things around. And that just illustrates the amount of patience it takes to effect change. But when we approach mindful consumerism as a spiritual practice and not as just a tool to achieve economic change and economic reforms, when we see it as a spiritual discipline, then we're willing to let it take as long as it needs to take. And we gradually grow, and we evolve, and we develop. And some folks practicing mindful consumerism, they may see that it's good for them to stick with an organization like that and work from within to change things. Others may see the wisdom in leaving that organization and getting out of that and finding greener pastures someplace else, while at the same time letting people know, yeah, I was an employee there and I quit, and this is why. And I just got tired of this situation. And let the story be told. As long as the story is true and is being told to effect positive change, I see no harm in it. Mindful consumerism can work if we are willing and patient enough to give it the time that it needs to work. We didn't get into a messed up system like the one most of us have been living in for most of our adult lives. We didn't get into this situation overnight. It happened slowly, by degree, over time, because most people were so unconscious. They didn't have a problem with going along with a corrupt system. And when we begin to open our eyes and realize, okay, the system is flawed, the system is corrupt, the system needs to be changed, and then we decide to work for positive change through love, not through anger, not through hatred, but through love. That is what I'm going to call Agapeism, showing unconditional love to folks, whether they deserve it or not, and working to effect change with love, the energy of love. And if we're willing to give it the time that it takes, we can begin to turn things around. Again, it probably will not happen overnight, but we have to engage it with the faith that it will happen, that everything in this universe will happen as it should. And that's my faith. We do what we feel we have to do. We feel what we need. We do what we feel we need to do out of love, the higher energy of love. And sometimes that may call us to do some pretty tough things. Perhaps even some tough things that don't look very loving on the surface. But as long as it's love that motivates us, then I think we will probably be doing the right thing. But again, that calls for mindfulness. Awaken yourself. Realize the power that you have. Realize the world that you live in. Ask yourself, what kind of a world do I want to create? And then be willing to do what you feel is right and what you feel is necessary to bring about that change. And so I think any discussion of mindfulness or mindful consumerism would be lacking if we didn't also mention love. Agapeism, metaism, whatever you want to call it. In this world that we live in, we focus on so many isms. Buddhism, Hinduism. We don't have Christianism, do we? Christianity, Judaism. But we have all these isms and itties running around that people put so much stock in. And a lot of times, love is just kicked to the curb, left to the wayside. And no matter what we do, what ism or anity that we practice, if we kick love to the curb, that philosophy, that spirituality, that school of thought, that religion is not going to amount to anything. It won't make a hill of beans difference. But if we focus on love and let that be our ism, let that become our religion. Focus on doing the right thing out of love for yourself, love for other people, unconditional love that we give because these are our fellow beings going through this life with us. And even if other people say they don't deserve love, we love them anyway. And there is a great power to that love, properly understood and properly used. So that's a little thing to close on there about Agapeism. Agape meaning undeserved and unconditional love that is showered freely upon all by the upper force, the higher power, the divine mind, and something that we who believe ourselves to be children of the divine source, something we have to learn to shower in our lives as well. Become channels of unconditional love, and let that break through the greed and the hurt and the hopelessness and the darkness, and let our love shine a light to effect change wherever it is needed. That's all I have for today. I think in an upcoming broadcast, I will do a presentation on the mindfulness trainings by Thich Nhat Hanh. That really is, there's a lot of wisdom in that teaching. And I think the art of living mindfully, and cultivating mindfulness in our lives is a very powerful practice. And I think it's one that really deserves further attention. So that will be upcoming. I may not get around to it till next week, but we'll see. Until later, though, you have a wonderful day. Open your eyes, liberate yourself, and let your love flow into the darkness. I leave you with Prometheus by Hunter and the Dirty Jacks.
It's just been dark at night. Once the sun goes down, there's no more heat and no light. But the cold outside, it only chills through the bones. So I walk on the Olympus instead of sleeping alone. Off in the distance, my heart felt a glow upon the mountain of knowledge where it's forbidden to go. I was this lady aflame. The moment I saw her, it was clear why I came. This is a daughter of Zeus. Yeah, those are clearly the odds. Now I got something in mind I gotta steal from the gods. She moves with the flicker. She goes red on to blue and cold. Oh,